Chapter 8. 3 Clocks of History. History does not keep time with a single clock. It moves instead to the ticking of several, each measuring a different rhythm of human life. Some count money, others count generations, others count the rise and fall of power. Ray Dalio, Strauss, and Howe, and Nikolai Kondratiev each listened to a different clock, and each heard something true. Kondratiev heard the deepest economic pulse. He listened to factories and railways, to electricity humming through cities, to computers lighting up the world. He saw that growth does not move in straight lines, but in long waves. A new technology lifts productivity, wealth expands, optimism spreads. Then the innovation matures, returns diminish, debt grows faster than real value, and the wave crests. What follows is not failure but transition. Crisis clears the ground so that a new engine of growth can take root. Kondratiev's clock measures the rhythm of innovation, how long an idea can carry civilization before it exhausts itself. Strauss and Howe listen not to machines, but to people. They notice that societies remember catastrophe only for a lifetime. Those who survive a crisis build institutions strong enough to prevent its return. Their children inherit stability and begin to question it. Their grandchildren forget why the rules exist at all. Thus the cycle turns: order, rebellion, fragmentation, and finally reckoning. Every 80 or 90 years, society is forced to confront itself, to tear down what no longer works, and to rebuild what must endure. Their clock measures memory, how long a generation remembers fear, and how quickly it forgets. Ray Dalio listens to both clocks at once, and to a third as well: power. He observes that money, debt, and empire are inseparable. Prosperity breeds confidence. Confidence breeds borrowing. Borrowing breeds inequality. As wealth concentrates, trust erodes. Internal conflict rises, just as external challengers grow stronger. At some point, the system can no longer be sustained by adjustments at the margin. Currency is debased, debts are restructured, and the global balance of power shifts. Dalio's clock measures dominance, how long a world order can last before it must give way to another. Each thinker describes a different layer of the same story. Kondratiev explains why economies overheat and cool. Strauss and Howe explain why societies swing between unity and division. Dalio explains why empires rise, overstretch, and decline. None contradict the others, they complete one another. When a technological wave nears its end, economic stress rises. As stress rises, social trust weakens. As trust weakens, political conflict intensifies. When debt is high, inequality is wide, institutions are questioned, and rivals are emboldened, history enters a narrow passage. These moments feel chaotic and unprecedented to those living through them. Yet they are among the most familiar in the historical record. Crisis in all 3 clocks is not an accident. It is the moment when illusions are stripped away. Kondratiev's crisis forces economies to abandon exhausted models. Strauss and Howe's crisis forces societies to redefine their values. Dalio's crisis forces empires to confront the limits of their power. What emerges afterward is never identical to what came before, but it is rarely random. The danger lies not in cycles themselves, but in forgetting them. Societies that believe prosperity is permanent borrow too much from the future. Generations that believe peace is natural fail to defend it. Powers that believe dominance is eternal lose the discipline that made them strong. The clocks keep ticking whether anyone listens or not. History, then, is not a loop, nor a straight road. It is a spiral. Each turn revisits familiar tensions, growth and decay, unity and division, order and upheaval, but at a new height, under new conditions, with new actors. The names change, the technologies change, the flags change, the rhythms do not. Those who study history's clocks do not do so to predict exact dates or events, but to recognize seasons. They understand that when waves crest, when memories fade, and when power overreaches, the world is preparing to change. Not by chance, but by pattern. Chapter 9. Time that is held to account. History is neither a straight line nor a simple return to where it began. It moves more deeply like a pendulum that swings, like a spiral that revisits the same ground but never from the same height. Across centuries, thinkers have tried to decipher this movement. Each has watched time from a different angle, and each has grasped part of the truth. Together, those truths form a larger picture. Kondratiev was the first to hear the long economic heartbeat. He observed that societies grow through great innovations: steam, steel, electricity, mass production, digital technology, and that each innovation lifts a long wave of prosperity that eventually exhausts itself. When technology no longer drives real productivity, credit takes its place. Debt expands, tensions rise, and the wave breaks. Crisis does not arrive as punishment, it arrives as transition. It clears the ground so that a new engine of growth can emerge. For Kondratiev, economic time moves in waves. Strauss and Howe listened to a different clock. They did not study machines, but generations. They saw that human memory has a limit. Those who survive catastrophe build strong institutions to prevent its return. Their children inherit stability and begin to question it. Their grandchildren forget why the rules existed at all. And so, every 80 or 90 years, society enters a crisis that forces reconstruction. It is not technology that fails, but memory. For Strauss and Howe, social time moves through generational relay. Ray Dalio listened to both clocks and added a third power. He observed that prosperity breeds confidence, confidence breeds borrowing, and borrowing breeds inequality. As wealth concentrates, social cohesion weakens. Internal conflict grows just as external challengers rise. When debt is high, currency weakens, and legitimacy erodes, the world order enters transition. Empires do not fall overnight. They stretch, overborrow, fragment, and are eventually replaced. For Dalio, geopolitical time moves through cycles of rise and replacement. Yet beneath these clocks lies a deeper one that measures neither productivity, nor generations, nor empires, but responsibility. Manuel Martinez proposes that history moves not only through material and psychological forces, but through covenantal cycles. Drawing inspiration from Genesis 47:11 and the biblical symbolism of the numbers 4 and 7, he argues that historical time is structured into expanding cycles of 28, 56, 84, 112, and 140 years. Each cycle does not erase the previous one, it deepens it. The 28-year cycle corrects. The 56-year cycle matures. The 84-year cycle tests. The 112-year cycle judges. The 140-year cycle completes or resets. At the center stands the 84-year cycle, roughly the length of a human lifetime, long enough for a society to move from living memory to complete forgetfulness. When those who endured the last great crisis are gone, history presents the same trial again, not because it is doomed to repeat itself, but because it must be answered. Here is where the models converge. When a Kondratiev wave exhausts itself, economic strain rises. When generational memory fades, Strauss and Howe describe social cohesion fractures. When debt and inequality reach extremes, as Dalio explains, power destabilizes. And when all of this unfolds within a covenantal cycle, as Martinez proposes, crisis becomes more than economic or political, it becomes moral. The essential distinction is this. Kondratiev explains how growth runs out. Strauss-Howe explains how memory runs out. Dalio explains how power runs out. Martinez explains why history demands an answer. In Martinez's vision, history is not neutral. It observes, weighs, and evaluates. Each generation inherits an order and decides whether to honor it, reform it, or betray it. Crises are therefore never accidental. They are moments of revelation. They reveal which institutions were real and which were hollow, which values were lived and which merely proclaimed, whether the covenant that sustained a society still stands or has been broken. History, then, is not a closed circle, nor a mechanical oscillation. It is a spiral with moral memory. Names change, flags change, technologies change. But the questions remain. What did we do with what we were given? Did we learn or repeat? Did we keep faith or break it? The clocks continue to tick, whether we listen or not. And when they align, when the economy tightens, memory fades, power fractures, and the covenant is tested, time stops whispering and begins to speak. Not as punishment, but as judgment.